We can practice polygyny in Islam, but just because it simply exists, like that, it becomes a problem. So I've seen that. I've had that throughout, my polygyny journey, so to speak.
Yeah.
And because of that, I kept that stuff to myself. Assalamu alaikum, peace. It's Nyla, Coach Nyla.
Assalamu alaikum, peace. It's Fatimah, Coach Fatimah.
And we are co-founders of Outstanding Personal Relationships, as well as co-authors.
Oh, Let's Talk Polygyny, Uncensored.
So, yes. So this is another comment video, or I guess a response to comments, because we get them, and we really appreciate the comments. We appreciate the ideas that you give us to talk about and everything like that. So yes, definitely appreciate it. This one goes out to those who have family members and who have some issues with polygyny, or are wondering, how did your family feel? Because we had that, like, how did your family feel about when, your loved ones, like not just family, but pretty much like the ones that's really close to you, like your parents and, siblings and things like that. My co-wife actually did a video with her brother. Yeah. So check that out about, how he felt about polygyny and all that other good stuff. So yes, and we, so this is to answer that, so we're going to give you guys a little bit of story time about how did our, parents and loved ones feel about, polygyny, about, us being involved in polygyny.
Yeah, my grandmother, she has dementia now, but she didn't then. now she forgot all of it. And I think there's a mercy in that for her, because then she doesn't have the burden of remembering it all. It's just a mercy. So I look at it that way. I don't even remember all of it, because again, that's another mercy, and our brains are not built to carry all that stuff. So forgetting and remembering are blessings in and of themselves. Now, my grandma was mad. She actually sat Coach Nazir down and talked to him, and she said, and I don't want you there. That's exactly like, that's good. I don't want you there. Because we know when we had those hard conversations that some people might shift or feel uncomfortable or guarded, and they guard their answers based off of the knowledge that the other person doesn't have. So I think that was wise of her. She was kind of set up like a dad in that regard. She just led with, what are your intentions on my granddaughter? I mean, I felt like we were reverse engineering something. Because, and I hated that she had to be asked, that she had to ask that. I was embarrassed. She's like, well, I tried to tell you. I mean, it was so much stuff that she was carrying, and I hate making my stuff somebody else's stuff. Like, I don't want to have that kind of attention, because it took away from her mothering my two mentally disabled uncles. I mean, she was like trying to help them and help me and help my kids, and it just was a hot mess. But they sat down and had their hard conversation. He came out, he was still living and breathing. But I remember her saying, she said, I've never wanted to jump on someone so bad, and I didn't. My grandmother's a June baby. So, she is very good at taking care of other people's emotions and their stuff, and taking care of others and putting herself last and all this. So for her to say that, I was shook, because she never led with something like that before. I'm like, this is serious if that's the response from a caring empath. I'm like, if you push them to that point, it got real. And then my parents, my mother didn't raise me, so I told her, because I didn't want her to see Coach Nazir and Coach Nyla on the street and then assume I was divorced, and then that go round and around. And she just kind of was like, you think you know somebody after so long, and that was telling me a lot because my dad was in the hospital. I told him, he was like, okay, yeah, I get that part, but you a little bit too skinny for me. And that scares me more than anything else. And I think as a man, and I'll just say this, y'all know me, I don't really care if people don't like it. But for me, I think as a man, he was more understanding of polygyny and more accepting of it. He didn't like how it was done, but he didn't have this really horrible reaction to it. It was almost like he understood, but he just was more concerned about my physical health, and that superseded anything else. Anything else was secondary to that. So it wasn't too bad, but my grandmother and them little comments and them little digs and that little stuff just every single day, and eye rolling, and I'm like, yo, and she's an ENTJ. Coach Nazir is an INTJ, and when I tell you those two are fire and ice together, because there's so much alike. That's the part. They both are like bosses, and I want to say what I gotta say, and I'm like, woo. And he was more in control of himself. I mean, he has this hayat that she did not have, or this shyness that she did not have, nor did she want to have. So it's funny because Coach Nyla had just brought up like this. It's the side comment thing that almost takes you out because you're like, this person loves me, but dang, I feel like I'm being paid. Like, you paying me back for loving you. You making me regret loving you by these little side comments.
Yeah. I just had to deal with that with my mom because I didn't tell nobody else. If you guys know some of the videos I say, I'm like, I didn't talk to people. I didn't talk to many people about polygyny. A couple of things because of the society we live in anyway. I mean, I start to look at my life and look at how, I was and I am and how I grew up. And I'm a type of person, and my mom taught me this, so it's really interesting when she teaches stuff, and I have to kind of let her know, like, okay, you teach me to be open-minded, you teach me to go against the grain, you teach me these different things, but then when I do it, and it ain't something that you would expect, then it's like, So,
he's my husband.
He's my husband.
He was my husband first.
Well, he's mine now.
He's both our husbands.
He is, you're right.
Okay, so I know you guys think that this is what polygyny is supposed to look like between co-wives. And we're here to let you know that that's not what it is.
What it is. And that's not how it works.
We're going to go and talk to these women about what it's really supposed to be.
Okay, guys.
So I'm Coach Nyla.
And I'm Coach Fatimah.
And we are co-wives, and we're married to that man, Coach Nazir, that just left out of here.
Yes.
So, yes. And the way you've seen it, usually that's what people think polygyny is and how co-wives should behave and react when they're married to the same man.
But is that the best way? Is that the most effective way? No, not if you want long-term success in polygyny.
And we created a wonderful roadmap to help you through polygamy with different requisites as well as
vulnerability, value. We discuss value, placing value on your marriage, how to be vulnerable within your marriage, because it's actually a superpower. We speak about that in our polygamy roadmap. We also discuss vision. What is your long-term vision, again, for success in polygyny? And ultimately, victory.
Victory. How to win as a family.
Yes.
How to win with your co-wife.
Yes.
How to win overall in your marriage in polygamy. So yes, make sure you get the polygamy roadmap today at polygamyroadmap.com. Because you don't want your relationship, your marriage, your family to look like the beginning of this video.
Right, because that's not the best practices for best results, guys.
So make sure you are growing intentionally,
loving fearlessly,
and connecting on a higher level every single day. Click the link, get the roadmap. We'll see you then. Assalamu alaikum.
Peace.
But it's really funny because that's pretty much the person I am. I kind of forged my own path. I mean, I see different things, and I'm the type of person, I like to cook. I mean, to bring it to this, I give you guys an example. I like to cook. I'll grab recipes and I will change the recipe. That's me. That's what I'll do. I'll add to it. I'll subtract to it. I'll do those different things. So I may see something, and if I can make it in a way that is okay for me, that's what I'm going to do. So when it comes to my life, and those who don't understand, like I was married before. So, polygyny is not my first rodeo as far as marriage goes. And a single mother, there's a lot of different things that happen in my life. And polygyny wasn't always like, oh yeah, let me go marry somebody else. I mean, for one, we don't do that in a different video because that's another video for another time. But the interesting thing is people got to understand, people are not really looking like that. Now, if it's somebody that's like that, then you got to worry about their whole, you do have to worry about their character. But I've seen the comments. We read the comments. I've seen people question my character from time to time again. Yeah. Because of, me being a part of something.
That's why.
Being part of something that Islam allows. I'm Muslim. This is not.
It's not a costume.
It's not a costume. I'm Muslim. And we can practice polygyny in Islam. But, just because it simply exists, like that, it becomes a problem. So I've seen that. I've had that throughout, my polygyny journey, so to speak. Yeah. And because of that, I kept that stuff to myself because I didn't want people to look at Islam in a negative light because it allowed polygyny, because people didn't understand it. Right. I didn't want people to look at, my co-wife, our husband, nothing like that in a negative light because they don't understand it. Or because I may be going through some insecurities at the time, or I may be going through some challenges at the time because people will come to your rescue, or they feel that they're coming to your rescue. So if you're sad or you're hurt or you're going through challenges, and you got to be really careful with who you allow to know that information, because later on it could come back to bite you. They could come and throw it in your face. They'd be like, oh, remember when you had said? Nobody, and for the most part, my mom only knew little bits and pieces. She knew that I was married in polygyny. Any other thing, she did not. She knew my co-wife. That's what people knew. They knew who my co-wife was. They knew who her husband was. They knew that I was in polygyny. That was that. Any other person that they knew in the family, they knew it through my mom, because I didn't tell them anything. My papa, the man who I call like my dad, who I've known since I was 2 years old, I don't know when he knew, but it don't really matter to him. We never spoke on it. He knows what it is. See? My family pretty much met, my relatives and everything. The ones who I feel like totally mattered. This is my little brother. He just couldn't come in. That's another story for another time. He set it up, but he had to go out of town. Anyway, they physically met at my 40th birthday celebration type of thing.
Yeah, that's the one where we all were there. Mm-hmm. And her pop-up, I met him. He was a sweetheart. He's met my really genuine person. Met
my bonus mom, my mom. She met my grandma at
birthday.
Was she at the birthday?
Brunch and Bunch.
The Brunch and Bunch. Oh, yeah, that was right.
We had on the same colors, me and the queen.
I forgot about that. Yes, my grandma. That was another birthday thing.
Yes, another birthday thing.
It was at the Brunch and Bunch. So the people who I felt that really, truly mattered to understand, I allowed them to be part of certain events in our lives so they can. And during those times, they spoke a lot to my co-wife. They, tried to get to know the family, sweet. Whatever. Me, I was sitting I was laying in the I was hanging in the background. Yeah. Because that's just me. I want people to get to know each other. And it was a good thing to see that without any type of any type of already, just preconceived type of stuff.
It was really gentle. It was nice.
And I think if I would have done it any other way at the beginning, that would have been an extremely awkward situation. Even though that was years into it. So let me see, we're 9 years in during that time.
We're 9 years in.
So that being said, when they all met in person, that's 9 years in polygyny. So that's a thing where but how they felt at the beginning, or my mom used to throw like little jabs, like little shots. I felt it was little shots. She probably, she'd be like, I wasn't doing that. But she'll be like, well, that ain't for me though. Or, that's y'all thing. Or so it'd be those different little comments. And I'm like, okay, cool, Mom. I get it. I understand. You don't have to keep telling me that. No, it's not your thing.
But that was for her. That wasn't for Coach Nyla. That's something that made her feel better.
Right.
And when people do that to you, it's something that make them feel comfortable in the situation where they can't say I agreed with it. Or they can't say I
exactly.
And she's a really sweet lady, but it's just it's not her culture. Yeah. So it's very difficult, even for the nicest of people, to understand why the hell would two women share a man. It's like, it's so many men out there. I'm like, y'all don't know the stats, or else it wouldn't slip up out your mouth.
Yeah.
And I like that. Like my grandmother would say stuff to, like, she would just check out. And then I kind of understood that the dementia was happening during my beginning years of polygyny. And she would say, well, it's too bad your father didn't love your mother like she loved him. And my kids would be in the car with her. So then they'd come home, Grandma said this, she said that. And I'm like, yikes. I didn't think she'd say that. Normally she would not have. And I'm like, what is wrong with her? Like, that's even crazy for her. She would usually say, ask your mom and your daddy, ask your daddy, ask your mother and your father. And we just didn't know. I'm like, that must have been the dementia part. But see, I was grateful, though, going back to Coach Nyla's family. They were fine with me. But I can't. The people that were in my life, the people that I call family, are very few. It's not. I have a lot of relatives now, but family is a little different for me. They related to me, but they're not in my circle. They're not part of my daily life. I don't talk to them. I know if those people had been in a room with us, the fit would have hit the shan long before I ever opened my mouth.